Hey guys, we're off cooldown once again, and we're here to talk about the International 10. So, this episode was brought to you by AVerMedia, who can provide you some great equipment for all your streaming and content creation needs. We're also giving away an AVerMedia Elena mousepad, so stay tuned until the end for more details on that. Okay, guys, so TI10 is finally over. How did you guys find it?
It was not at all what I expected. It was really exciting in a lot of ways and certainly disappointing in others, especially knowing my allegiances. But I'd say overall, I really enjoyed this TI. Like a lot more than I thought I might have, especially considering the hype was really different without a real crowd. They had the crowd machine, but we can go into more of how that felt later, I guess.
Well, for me, I enjoyed the production. There are a lot of problems when it comes to timing and delays, but overall, the set design, I really appreciated that. The 3D models and the 3D engines that they used, the green screen effects that they used were all incredible. As someone who works behind the scenes in esports events as well, I really appreciated those because I know how much work gets put into those kinds of things. In terms of the matches, though, um, I must say I enjoyed the previous TIs more, but this year was no different in terms of the hype that it could bring. There were a lot of storylines that we could have followed for this year, and there were a lot of hype matches as well, and very unexpected outcomes in some of the matches. But my biggest disappointment is EG not reaching finals to get defeated there. That's my biggest disappointment for this TI, to be honest.
I think you should, like, if you're expecting a failure at the finals, it might be an LGD thing, not an EG thing anymore.
Yeah, it's becoming a trend the past couple of years for LGD being so near yet so far. It's one of the storylines that have emerged over the past years.
Yeah, poor Ame.
Yeah,
Poor
man.
Anna, yeah.
I feel kind of
Oh,
bad for him.
on another note, I think the only something else I picked up from TI10 is that I don't like the place the Tiny is currently in the meta. I don't like the fact that you have a carry that picks up one, maybe like three items. Three items, just the Silver Edge, the Echo Saber, and then maybe a Satanic or a BKB, depending on the enemy lineup. And he just goes 1v5, he goes 1v4 against a carry who has the same amount of farm. Tiny just does so much better, even without the other heroes that surround him. It's just, I don't know.
And the like and
Val,
dog
please.
meta, right? The like and dog
Yeah.
meta really enables the Tiny carry pick. And what makes it harder to counter is that it's also a flex pick, so you can't really shut it down. Or if you do, they can always transition it to support if it's needed, and it's still going to be really effective as a support.
Yeah, it certainly makes for some really strange pick and bans if Tiny doesn't get banned immediately and someone picks it up, because he can fill the role anywhere from 1 to 4. Any of those roles he can just play. And yeah, I feel like that was probably the most disappointing thing of TI for me, was the fact that Tiny just felt really broken, and a lot of matches just ended up lopsided because of that hero. I mean, that's not to say that that it was just because of Tiny. I mean, we've seen like Sumail on Tiny 2 games in a row lose
Yeah.
because of how well the execution was on the other team side. But overall, yeah, I think they brought out a lot of strats, and a lot of them revolved around those sorts of things. But we also saw some strange picks, like Dawnbreaker 4 making a big appearance in TI, surprisingly. Like Bane also, not really something that we see in the meta that much. ET and Bane, especially, those two supports making their way into TI and making such a large impact in every single game that they were in. Well, almost every single game they were in.
But the elephant in the room is Magnus. Even though Tiny was arguably one of the most overused picks for this TI, it's undeniable how much more impact Magnus have had in this TI. Not just in Team Spirit actually, because a lot of other teams have picked Magnus to some great effect for this TI. But rather, Magnus became more stuck in the consciousness of the people with Team Spirit rather, because their offlane collapse just did really well using Magnus. But still, even outside of Team Spirit, he was used really well in other lineups. Just not as prevalent as Tiny, but I think it's also one of the trends in the pick and ban phases that emerged during this year's TI.
Yeah, and what surprised me the most about the Magnus pickup is that, you know how we're all used to seeing flashy Magnus plays with like the big RPs and everything. Here, Magnus is usually picked up as somebody who gets like a Helm of the Dominator, and then he just empowers his carry to help them farm, like maybe make them skip the farming item, or we see how powerful Horn Toss is in this patch. Not just in the hands of Collapse, but Horn Toss in general because of how big its AoE is. It's kind of being used as like a pseudo RP that you get at 20 minutes, and I don't know, it's pretty insane.
I'm pretty sure it's gonna get nerfed after TI.
Yeah, I'm expecting that to get nerfed.
Yeah, I really think Horn Toss should be single target instead of what it does right now. That really, it's area. Is it area target? It hits everyone in front of Magnus.
It's surprisingly large AoE in front of Magnus, and then it flips everyone behind him. 0.75 second stun,
which
enough
makes
time for them to turn around and skewer them into the enemy team.
Which makes everyone who gets hit with the Horn Toss to be, especially since they nerfed Flicker. It's almost impossible to escape that if you don't have any other allies around you, right? So if you're all alone, there's not enough time for you to pop a BKB or to use a Yules. It's just, Horn Toss just works perfectly with Magnus. It's too perfect for the hero's kit. There's no way that you can escape Magnus once he gets his horn up your back.
See?
I think we get what you're trying to say there.
Okay. Alright, so yeah, I think it's about time we move on to how broken our brackets were. So before TI, we talked about our hopes and dreams about TI, and I am gonna go last this time because I feel like I have
the most
a lot
to say.
Yeah.
This year was Cal's year in terms of, in terms of what region won. It's her pet region that won this year. If you listened into our last week's episode, you'd know that Cal is a big CIS fan. But if you are watching us on Facebook and YouTube, you should see right now the final brackets for TI10. So if you're not watching a video, well, you can just search up the brackets on Wikipedia or something. But if you didn't watch TI, the most important thing that you should know, if you haven't caught up with the news yet, is that PSG LGD was once again in the finals. They went through the entire upper bracket, undefeated actually. They defeated first OG. Oh, they actually lost one game against T1.
Yeah, they lost exactly one game through their upper bracket run against T1. That was it, one game. They dropped one game, made it all the way to the finals, and then they lost to Team Spirit, who had fought their way, after falling from the upper bracket in their first series, fought their way all the way through the lower bracket to the grand finals, before claiming the Aegis. Stopping LGD once again from getting the Aegis for, this is the third year in a row. I think they went second, third, second.
Yeah, they went second, third, second. Of course, when they went second for the first time, it was against OG during OG's first championship 3 years ago already. In TI8 in 2018, it still had Ame in the carry position, and then in 2019 they lost against Team Enigma in the lower bracket finals. They ended up having the same lineup, the same roster as their 2018 squad. And LGD said, no, this is not acceptable. You can't go from second to third in TI and get away with it. So they changed the entire roster except for Ame. They retained Ame. So for this year, it was an entirely different squad. Even the coach was different. They changed QQQ with Xiao 8, the legendary Xiao 8 from China, and retained Ame as the carry. And then they went second this year. And it's just really sad. I felt really sad for Ame, Always being so near but so far, yet so far from the Aegis and winning everything. But still, you have to give props to the tenacity of Team Spirit. Their story is that they went from the upper bracket. They almost didn't make it in the upper bracket because they lost their first 4 games in the group stage. But they were able to fight and claw their way back up the groups, and they were able to secure a position in the upper bracket, only to lose to Invictus Gaming in the first round. And then they were sent down to the lower bracket, and from there on, they were unstoppable. They defeated first Fnatic, and then OG, and then Virtus Pro. And then they had their revenge against Invictus Gaming when they faced each other again in the lower bracket. And then they beat Team Secret of all teams. You know, a lot of people were really banking on Team Secret winning this year's TI, especially since OG lost against Team Spirit. People hedged their bets. They changed ships from OG to Team Secret, and then they went against PSG LGD in the finals. And it was a very, well, I wouldn't say dominating win, but it was decisive. It leaves no room for doubt that Team Spirit was the better team that day against PSG LGD, and it was a well-deserved Aegis win for them.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Team Spirit in June of this year also entered through the EU/CIS Open qualifiers, beating out Team Empire just enough to make it to qualify, for the group stages.
It's almost the same story as OG from 3 years ago, right? In TI8.
Yeah, except minus the fact that OG came all the way from the lower bracket from the start. In Team Spirit's case, they were in the upper bracket, they fell immediately, and then they climbed their way through the lower bracket all the way until the grand final stage.
Just
Yeah, that really, it really messed up my predictions. Like, I didn't get a lot of points from this one. I think I only got 8 predictions right.
let's
I
count
got
it.
8
1, 2,
predictions right,
3,
so.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, I lost
Yeah, you
my
can see
count
from-
for 5. Yeah, 8. Yeah.
It's 8, yeah. So you can see from the very start, my lower brackets, I get 3 out of the 4 teams wrong immediately. I was not expecting that Fnatic would. I mean, yeah, I was not expecting that Fnatic would beat out Undying, like to see Undying go in the BO1 that quickly. And I also was expecting that Aster would beat Quincy Crew. But I'm actually glad that outcome, because we got to see the Quincy Crew versus OG with just that moment with the 2 Hassan siblings where Yawar just all chats the GG good luck little bro to Sumail as they take the final game away from them. As for the Beast Coast Alliance game, yeah, I was really, because of how bad Alliance was performing the group stages, right? They just barely made it. I was really expecting Beast Coast to win that one, but then Alliance wins, and then they immediately get kicked out by T1. So why couldn't it just been the other way around? Give me points. As for the EG one, I was kind of expecting them to go a bit further than they actually did, even if my predictions don't say so, because everybody thought really that EG was going to be like one of the top performing teams of this TI, and then we see them end up qualifying. We talked about this in the last episode where they end up qualifying in the lower bracket, but then we also see them beat Elephant out, and then immediately get kicked out after that. And I don't think I was expecting that, but I mean that's just the way the chips fell, I guess. And as for the upper bracket, we had never seen Secret and OG against each other in main stage before, right? Like, we've never seen that game, so I didn't know what to think. But of course, being a fan of OG, I wanted OG to win, which they didn't. And then Secret made their way with IG, and they beat IG there, right? Like, Secret beat IG in the upper bracket round 2, and that's when they went up against the LGD before falling to the lower bracket then. But it was straight out of left field, really. Like, my predictions really got messed up. I mean, they've been messed up from the start. You can see them right there. But I don't think anybody really expected... I don't think anybody really expected Team Spirit to perform the way that they did. I think there was like a statistic last night that Shiver had mentioned that there were only 4 people out of the millions and millions who predicted. Only 4 people predicted 20 games correctly. Or 20 of their bracket predictions were right. So that's how many people expected this outcome for this TI, and I think that it makes for an incredible story, and I'm happy with the results, even if my favorite team got booted out.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
you get for following your heart in the predictions. It's predictions using statistics. And you know what? I also had copium during our episode last week when we were talking about the predictions, who we thought would win, who we wished would win. Of course, whatever I said there, I didn't follow in my own predictions in the compendium because I know most of what I said wouldn't come true. I said I wanted EG to lose in the finals. Of course, I knew that's not gonna happen. No way in hell would that happen. I would be happy if that happened though. But yeah, I really wasn't expecting that. But same as Dell here, I was expecting OG to beat Secret, and that turned out to be my only mistake in the upper bracket. I didn't expect OG to really lose against Team Secret there, especially since they showcased a very strong performance in the group stages. And Secret has the tendency to not really perform well in the upper bracket of TI. Historically, they tend to choke there. But this year wasn't that year, and they actually went all the way to the upper bracket finals, as mentioned by Del earlier. And you know, it almost got me hoping that Team Secret would win this year's TI. But then they got beaten by PSG LGD in the upper bracket, which I predicted again. I thought PSG LGD will go all the way to the grand finals, but I wasn't actually expecting them to lose when they reach the grand finals. Their consistent performance the past 3 years, and even in the DPC, I really expected them to win this year's TI. But then that didn't happen. As we all know, Team Spirit was there. I thought Team Spirit at that point in the lower bracket round 3, since I got OG beating Secret, it would have been Team Spirit versus Secret in the lower bracket round 3. That got delayed until the lower bracket finals, wherein Team Spirit defeated Team Secret 2-1. And actually, that's an outcome that I don't think a lot of people would have expected. Team Spirit had the benefit of having a lot of momentum going into the lower bracket finals and into the grand finals. But you have to imagine how much endurance that team has to be able to persist and to keep their heads on their shoulders, even with all of the pressure and playing all of those games. And most of those games were 2-1s actually. And there were also instances where they lost the first game in the series of best of 3 and they had to reverse sweep their opponents.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Team Spirit is made up of a bunch of young blood. These are really young players. For most of them, aside from their I think they've been to a total of 6 TIs, and 5 of those are from their coach. Like, these
Yep.
are fresh faces to TI. I think only, who is it? Miposhka has been to 1 TI
Yeah,
before
Miposhka.
this. A single TI, like a single TI between the players. 6, including the coach. But they overcame the odds. I think this is, honestly, in my opinion, I think this is a bigger Cinderella story, like a bigger upper bracket, a bigger uphill battle than even OG was in TI8.
Yes, because OG, as you remember, the only newbie for them was Thompson. I mean, Anna was relatively still new during that time, but he was already established as one of the best mid players or cores of that time. And, Notail has been a respectable member of OG ever since. Even during his days in Fnatic, he was already acknowledged as one of the best players in the field. So, to compare them with Team Spirit, who is, a bunch of nobodies, if you really think about it, they're a bunch of nobodies except for Miposhka, who
Yeah, a bunch
has
of
been
fresh
around.
faces,
Yeah,
right?
a bunch of fresh faces. Nobody knows where they came from. They were from Yellow Submarine, which is kind of like the incubation team or incubator team of Team Spirit. But aside from that, where they came from before that, they came out of nowhere, really. And actually, I think Kyle has a lot to say about Team Spirit.
And about the CIS region in general, I think.
Yep. Oh, is it my turn already? Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's been your dream long time coming to see this happen.
Yeah, man. Okay, so let's start with my bracket. My bracket actually is very similar to Newt's. So my upper bracket is exactly the same actually. I also expected OG to win against Secret and then LGD to make it to the finals and then win. Because as much as I was on the CIS Hopium train, I also believe that it might be LGD's year finally. Because they looked so good coming into TI. Their group stage was pretty good. And then everyone was like on the LGD. Like, I feel like everyone who wanted to bet their money was actually betting on LGD. Because it's kind of a no-brainer coming into the bracket.
Okay,
But
before
all the
before
way.
you go on, I just want to
Yeah.
point out that You know, we've been talking about how Kyle hates OG so much, but if you could look at her upper bracket run, she had OG lose in the upper bracket finals. Like, wow, Kyle, you had faith in OG all this time? I didn't know that.
Okay, so I don't like OG, but I actually believe that they have like something going on during TI. They always like show up at TI
Well,
for some reason.
I mean, like you could not like a team. Like I don't like EG that much, but you can
Yeah,
acknowledge that they're a good team.
yeah,
Which
yeah.
I don't think. I think from OG's track record, you can say that they are like objectively,
Yeah,
just
they're
because of the two
objectively a good
TI
team.
wins under their belt. Although I just want to say, as an OG fan, I don't understand their drafts this TI. Like Night Stalker 4 was horrible. The NP5 was questionable.
Yeah, their drafts this TI were weird. I mean, I guess if it worked out, it would be Giga Brain. We'd be seeing it all over pubs, just like the IO from
Yeah, but
last year.
they got absolutely like they got flattened running those drafts.
Yeah, I guess the draft magic wasn't here this year for some reason. But yeah,
Although we
so
did end up I guess we did end up seeing OG. Sorry, we did end up seeing OG in the finals. Like 7 No Tail ended up on the draft panel for for the grand finals games.
that was actually very insightful, though.
It was very insightful, but also very controversial for a lot of people. Like, I saw a lot of comments like saying, why is Seb and Notel here? Because they actually wanted more to see more of the actual panelists, you know, and kind of feel bad for whoever was supposed to get that spotlight, get dropped of their time under the sun. Or who knows, maybe it was really meant to be a slot for eliminated teams, you know. Who knows, maybe it could have been Team Secret there, you know, Poppy and
I mean, it might have also had something to do with the fact that they had a couple of active COVID cases suddenly come up in the middle of TI. Although they didn't mention exactly who it was, they had 2 active cases, so that might have had something to do with who ended up paneling for those last few games.
yeah.
I think that's a bigger factor.
But I mean,
I-
also, you know, given the chance, the people who won the 2 latest TIs would make for a pretty good draft panel, along with Aoi, who's already won one TI, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he won TI5, then got kicked afterwards.
No, I watched the late game with Pyrian Flax, and they had Aoi as a guest, where he recounted his experiences, all of his experience throughout all of his years and all of the teams that he went through in his Dota career, and he said he was still very much bitter about getting booted out right after winning TI.
And it's
Yeah,
actually
man.
really funny because I saw PPD tweet something in the lines of, I don't know why people think that Aoi and I have some beef. I think we have a lot of chemistry in the panel. And I was like, I remember AUI saying something else in an interview.
Well, maybe it's PPD's copium, you know, we don't know.
Maybe PPD doesn't know that we didn't appreciate getting kicked like that.
But
I
you
don't
know,
think anyone would.
getting back to the topic on how good Team Spirit's run was this year, we were
Wait,
also
wait.
talking about TI champions, right? Or
Sorry about it. Cal wasn't done with her bracket predictions.
oh yeah,
Okay. Oh wait. Okay, so I'll just finish the bracket real
yeah,
fast.
go ahead.
So my lower bracket one is like completely down the drain. My first round lower bracket is all wrong. So all the 4 teams that got eliminated first, I got wrong. And then my CIS Hopium train was all on VP. So I was expecting a CIS versus China TI10 final, but with the wrong CIS team. So I guess it makes sense because looking at their group stage and how they performed in the DPC, VP was like more of a shoe-in when it comes to CIS. So I have just enough CIS copium to put CIS team in the final, but I guess I wasn't banking on Team Spirit making a miraculous run. So yeah.
How did you feel when, according to your predictions, similarly, right? LGZ kicks VP down to the lower bracket, but then not according to your predicts. Team Spirit goes up against VP, and you have these 2 CIS teams, and you're hoping to see at least one of them in the finals, and they're up against each other. Whoever
Yeah,
loses gets eliminated. How did that make you feel? Because like, I imagine like this is like 50% of your hopium down the drain right then and there.
Yeah, I was like really torn during that game, but also kind of happy because one of these CIS teams is moving on, right? So you're sure that one of them is gonna make it further, even if one of them is gonna leave. I actually expected VP to win that, but I guess it all worked out in the end. I'm not sure if VP would have won the
Against LGD.
yeah, against LGD because of like See, to be honest, if it was Secret that won the lower bracket final, I don't think they would have gone all the way to 5 games. I think LGD might have won like 3-1 or 3-0.
Yeah, we had already seen Secret against LGD. Unless Secret had some other pocket strat, they might have ended up in the same way as their first fight against each other in the upper bracket finals.
But you
Yeah,
could
I
actually say the same with Team Spirit and IG. You know,
Mm.
IG 2-0 Team Spirit in the upper bracket, and then Team Spirit 2-1 IG in the lower bracket.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely true, but I do feel like it's a different thing against LGD specifically, just because of how consistent they are at just their entire game of Dota throughout this entire tournament is so consistent. They only drop, like we mentioned earlier, they only dropped one game in the upper bracket. Out of all the games they played, I think should be like a total of 12. They lost 4 of them, 3 of them in the grand finals, and 1 of them in the very first game in the upper bracket. So that consistency, that they have as compared to like Team Spirit and IG.
They do have a higher win rate in the main event compared to Team
Yeah.
Spirit. Now that if you do the math, but yeah.
But yes, Spirit kicked out all of the 2-time hopefuls though, pretty much all of them, right?
No, except
Yeah.
S4. Everyone
Except
except,
for
S4.
S4.
Everyone except S4.
Because S4 wasn't fortunate enough to face Team Spirit in the lower bracket. You know, they got
Yeah.
defeated by T1. But it could have happened. Looking at the brackets, it could have happened if T1 reached until the lower bracket round 5. Could have happened. It would have been amazing, right? Like Team Spirit, they don't have anything to prove anymore, even if they lose in the grand finals, if they've beaten all of the TI champions. And in grand finals, they actually beat 2 more TI champions in the form of
Yeah.
Y and Faith
And Faith
Bian
Bian.
from the Wings Gaming lineup from TI6, if I'm not mistaken. The last time that the Eastern team won TI. And yeah, Team Spirit really did well. And actually, I was also going to mention earlier the similarities between the VP and Team Spirit lineups, wherein they're both very young teams. Earlier in the season, VP, they were the members of the current VP are from the VP Prodigy. If you're coming from League of Legends, they're kind of academy team. Or if you're coming from NBA perspective, it's like the G League of the teams. So this is like their second string of players, and they realize that they're so much better. They've outgrown their old squad mates. I believe these were No One. I think No One, Ramses. I'm not sure if Solo was still there, but still, even with just those 2 names, you can already see how much hope that the VP organization had for this young team. And in many ways, they're very similar to Team Spirit. It's just that turns out the Team Spirit was more successful compared to VP in this year.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe they could have also gone all the way. But anyway, I really feel like this year's Team Spirit win is like the most poetic possible storyline that we could have had this TI. Because if you look at it, a CIS, the very first TI was won by a CIS team versus China. And the Chinese team also looked unbeatable before the tournament. Like, eHome during TI1 was like the strongest Chinese team ever. At that time, they were even well known in Dota 1 before Dota 2 was a thing. And then they got beat by Navi, who was like, they had like a name for themselves as DTS from Dota 1, but like they were more of an upstart kind of team before they became, kind of legendary in Dota 2. So it's kind of like a similar storyline. And then it happened again 10 years later. So for me, as someone who's been a fan of the CIS region's Dota for a decade, it's been a really long time coming. So this is like the best possible timeline when it comes to pro Dota for me. So it's really great to see a nice young team win it all for the CIS, because this also means the region might finally start investing more into young talent, because as much as I love the CIS and my old boys, it's also about time that they stop trying to make all-star teams with old players because sometimes that doesn't work anymore.
I wonder if that has something to say, like, for old players in general. Like, because I feel like, I don't know, just a gut feeling after TI10, right? We're gonna see a lot of familiar faces start to retire, maybe move on to analysis or paneling for future events. But I feel like there's gonna be quite a few pros that are gonna be hanging up the towel soon, realizing that maybe their page in history has already turned, and maybe it's time to let the fresh young talents make their way in with their a weird Dota and their faster reaction times and whatnot.
In between the All-Star match and the Grand Finals, there was this one segment. I think it was a decade of TI or something like that, the decade of Dota, where they talked to some of the oldest pros, and the two people I remember speaking there were Ice 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 and Poppy, wherein Ice 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 was talking about him now being a dad. Now he has a son that he wishes he could watch grow up, and he was talking about how your priorities are changing when you have a family already. And while he still wants to compete, he said that if his son will need him to be there for the majority of his growth, then he'll have to choose his son. We remember last year when COVID struck that Ice 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 actually took some time off Dota just so that he can focus more on being a father. And I think that's true for a lot of players, not just for Ice Ice Ice. And as we know, a lot of the players that we've grown to love over the years have already moved on in their lives. They're getting older, starting their own families, and having their families. They have their children now, and they have to focus on their familiar matters. And I think a lot of pros will start retiring soon because of that. But moving on to the next person that I was talking about, Poppy, he explicitly said there in that segment he won't stop playing in TI until he gets his second Aegis. I remember that. I remember him saying that. I was like, okay, fine, Poppy, you'll be playing until TI20. That's fine with me. I don't really care. Yeah, I like seeing you up there. But there's really some dedication in some of the players, there's a kind of drive for many of them to really go for the gold and never stop until they reach their dreams. And even for Poppy, who already won the Aegis once and really doesn't have anything else to prove to anyone. So I think it's really just for him to prove to himself that he still has it, that his first TI championship wasn't a fluke. Because a lot of people are saying that it's a fluke because back in TI1, there were only, limited number of teams who were competing in TI1, and that it wasn't a real TI. Some people would say that. So yeah, while it's going to be really interesting to see where the pros will be going from here on forth. And actually, one of the most interesting things, I'd like to get your opinion, Cal, on what you think about this. When Team Spirit won the Aegis, they were interviewed by Sumichu right after, right? I actually am not sure if it's Sumichu, but I think it was Sumichu. And Sumichu asked Miposhka what he's going to do afterwards. And he was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I still want to play Dota after this. That's a lot of money. He was saying that. How much do you think, how much truth do you think is there in that statement? Is he just joking? Or do you think there's some form of reality in what he said?
Okay, when it comes to Team Spirit and Miposhka in particular, I think he might actually be seriously considering it. Miposhka has actually been active in the CIS scene for quite a few years now, and winning TI might actually be, like the life-changing event that he needs to move on and like do something else. Especially for the younger guys in Team Spirit. Imagine at 19, you already won this many $1 million. You could actually like quit and then start studying and do something completely different and be set in your life. So I think it's actually a serious consideration for these guys. But I feel like it's also likely that we'll see more of them. Because, winning TI your first time, it's kind of, wouldn't it be fun to go try again? Especially when you still have so many competing years under your belt.
Interestingly enough, they actually talked about this in the late game with Pyrian Flax when they had Aoi 2000 on stream with them. They asked him about that, and he said that when you're a professional player for Dota, in his opinion, right, you're focusing so much of your time and effort into just being a part of the game, being a part of the scene. So you're constantly playing, you're dedicating so much of your life to it that Aoi said that he felt like he wasn't able to grow in any other way as a person. His skills were limited completely to Dota, and he wanted to be able to grow more as a person. He felt that way, especially after winning his first TI. Like, even if he competed again in the future, he realized much later on that he wishes that he had stopped much earlier than he did. and that he was able to develop more of his skills outside of Dota, because like we don't really know if the scene's gonna be alive forever, even throughout our own lifetimes. And if you dedicate your entire life to just that one game, just that one scene, according to Aoi at least, right? It does weigh on him it did weigh on him in a lot of ways, outside of just being a player or anybody involved in the Dota scene, but like how he felt like he developed as a human being. So I feel like Miposhka, having tried for as long as he has already, like he's Miposhka in particular is not a young blood by any means. Maybe he was serious about that. Maybe he got what he wanted out of the Dota scene and it's time to move on to something else. Or maybe even just he got what he wanted out of being a player and it's time to move on to something else.
Yeah, that's true. I feel like what Aoi said depends on the player though, because there are a bunch of players that are also super involved in like businesses. They start their own org, like people like Puppy, Notel. So they have their own org, they actually own. So I'm pretty sure they like growing as business owners and stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
So
maybe
it-
that's
but
why
still with
people get
relations
kicked
to
off.
Dota, like their entire lives kind of rotate around that scene in a way.
Maybe it's because of that mentality of AUI that he got kicked off EG after winning a championship.
Oh.
You know? Maybe PPD knew all this time. Oh no,
my God.
AUI is losing his drive. Okay, kick.
Oh my god.
But anyway, I think you have it right with Miposhka. He has been, he has been working hard and probably is already losing hope towards the end, and he's just like, I just want to win the Aegis. And now that he has done that, he might be considering retiring already. But I don't think the same can be said for the other four. They seem like the kind of people who would enjoy going for another run, even if they, even if they lose Miposhka. But my question here would be, what do you think, Carl? Will the four stick together even if Miposhka leaves? Probably with another team or a bigger organization. Will they stay with Team Spirit, or do you think they'll get poached by different organizations moving forward?
Okay. So, of course, my biggest hope is that they stick together, right? But the CIS is well known for giant roster shakeups after TI. They like poach each other's players, and then suddenly 3 of your players are in a different team, and then you swap the other 2 in another team, something like that. That like happens really weirdly. Like for a while, the only stable team in the CIS was VP, right? Solo and his other 4 guys. They only had one roster change during like 3 years. They only changed Lil for Roger, and then they
But, I
stuck.
mean,
Everyone else stuck together.
But
But
considering like Team Spirit, right? Not very
Yeah.
seasoned, and considering the very large sum that they just won for themselves and for their org, I don't really know what kind of incentives there would be to being poached by other teams. Aside, because you know how well they work together, like you can see their coordination. Everybody always talks about Collapse and Toronto Tokyo's flashy plays, but what really activates those plays, I think, is just how well they seem to communicate. Like their CC chains are so clean, their executes are so clean. When the Magnus skewers somebody in, there was that one time in mid lane against LGD's. Was it LGD's Tiny? I think it was. I'm not too sure now. Where they skewered the Tiny into the tier 2 tower. And as soon as he's there, when the stun is about to run out, Storm Spirit comes in, silences him, and then he pulls him in with the Vortex. And as soon as that runs out, he gets hit immediately without any delay in the CC by Willow's Terrorize. And that kind of CC layering, it's just so clean. And I'm just trying to think, what if you would think that that they would separate, or like they would get poached by financial incentives, considering how much they just won, compared to like how well they seem to play together as a team.
That's the thing, right? We are free to speculate on how much well they do together. Probably they're really just good individually, and great people. When they work together, they tend to do great things. It's also possible, which is why
Not
I really
always
want.
true though.
Yeah, but that's also possible. It could be team chemistry, but it could also be individual abilities really shining out and turning out to be really good for the entire team. So that's why I'm really looking forward to this year's True Sight, especially since we don't know a lot really about Team Spirit. The backgrounds of these people, they really, like I said earlier, they literally came out of nowhere and they just won TI. And that's going to be interesting. We're going to see how they actually interacted inside the booth, how they communicated. That's something, those are the perspectives, the insights that we want to see in True Sight, the upcoming True Sight for this TI championship. And they've already won one TI. So individually, I have a feeling that maybe not all of them, because I really don't know how they think. But if you've already won that much money, and it raises their stock value by a lot. And as Kyle
Yeah.
mentioned, these CIS orgs are really keen on poaching players who are really successful. And for example, if you have a team that's only missing an off lane, they'd be more than willing to put all of their resources just to get collapse, for example, and they wouldn't care about the others, because from what they saw in their international run, even if you just consider collapse performance on his own in a vacuum, he was really good. Even if you take away his entire team, their chemistry did help because they were able to follow up on each other. But you can see from the individual's performance that they have the IQ, they have the awareness, the map awareness. They knew how to use their heroes, their hero pool, especially Yatoru. His hero pool was exhibited
He
in
only
this
picked-
TI.
Yeah, he only picked 2 heroes twice, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he got 3 rampages too.
Yeah. It's insane. Oh my god.
So in terms of these orgs, these CIS orgs wouldn't care so much about getting the entire team. They would see whatever they need from this team, and they'll go after those talents that they specifically need for their team. So it will really depend on these 4 if they'd want to stick together, or if they'd want to test their stock value in the free agency.
On a side note, though, before True Sight comes out, Team Spirit on their official YouTube channel has some vlogs, and it's pretty insightful into the kind of people that these players are outside of the main stage, because that's mostly how we've seen them.
Oh, that's cool. I haven't actually seen it. It's an interesting side note as well, because when they won, you can see the growth of their channels. If you're looking at their follower count on Twitter and on YouTube, it was steadily growing as they win matches in the lower bracket, and now they have a lot of, it's more like 10 times of their original follower count when they won Aegis, and that really also elevates the brand. So Team Spirit still has the capability of keeping these because of the new sponsorships that they will surely get from this win. But it really depends on the players as well, if they want to stick together or not. So it's interesting to see. I'd like to see those videos, but now that I haven't yet, that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I really can't wait for True Sight. It will be a True Sight to remember for sure.
Yeah, especially
Man.
for you, Cal, because it's the first True
Yeah.
Sight with the CIS team. Oh, no, rather. There was a True
No,
Sight
there was a-
focusing on VP
yeah.
before. But this is
Yeah,
the first
VP
True Sight focusing on a
first
CIS
OG.
winner on TI. Yeah, it's going to
Yeah.
be interesting.
I
But,
love it.
moving on to a new topic. Did you guys know? I'm looking at this infographic by Team Empire social media team. The team who did qualify for TI this year, but has a very nice...
They got beaten out by
They
Spirit,
got
by the way,
beaten up by
Empire.
Team Spirit in the finals of the CIS region qualifiers, but they have a really good SOCMED team. But anyway, did you guys know that throughout the 10 years of TI, there has been $180,000, $767,178 in prize money, and $52 million of that went to Chinese players. And China has the most earnings of all the countries combined. Well, not all of the countries combined, but compared to all of the other countries. So that's 52 million, almost a third of all the prize money went to China.
I think that's expected. They've always been a pretty strong region. They always show up at TI like at least until like top 6. They always have at least one team, something like that. And they have like a bunch of agencies of their own. So
And it does seem like the culture in that region is kind of like it's so competitive, right? Like
yeah.
the way that we see that fans react and just the kind of teams that come out of that region, they're just it's insane. It looks like it's a dog eat dog world in the esports scene in that region, right?
I feel like China also has the best infrastructure in terms of Dota. Like they have the main team, and every main team has a what they call a junior team.
Yeah, an academy team.
Yeah, and then they also have like G League. They have a lot of inter-team leagues that are between Chinese teams and then between their junior teams. So it's like constantly a grind the whole year round. There's always something to play. So I feel like they know each other so well, and because they play so many games, it's like they really get honed, and then when they show up in a international tournament, they always like kind of blow everyone away for a bit. But of course,
Tend to
lately,
fall short right at
Yeah.
the end.
yeah,
But
yeah.
then looking at our latest winners, Team Spirit, it's composed of 3 Russians and 2 Ukrainians. So this is just stats. Each one of them brought home about $3.6 million. And that actually made Russia the second highest earning country from around $6 million to now 15 million. So you see the disparity. China has 52 million and Russia only has 15 million. That's already the first and second. And then Ukraine went up from having around $4 million in total earnings to $11 million. And that's already considering that some of the Navi players came from Ukraine. You know, the TI prize pool has just
1,
been
2, 3.
expanding and expanding and growing and
Yeah.
growing, that the most recent wins actually matters more than the earlier ones. So
By a lot.
by a lot. And considering that
Mm.
PSG LGD won second, third, second the past 3 years, that really inflated value of China in terms of earnings. Where do you guess Philippines is in this ranking?
Did we make top 10? I
Oh,
don't know.
let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, before I go on, Derek, Del, do you think Philippines is in the top 10?
I'm not that familiar with how well we've been performing because I haven't been following the scene as much as either of you. But if I have to go with my gut, I'd say no, just because. Well, only this is talking in terms of countries, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and also only on TI winnings.
Yeah. TNC made it last TI, right? They made it into TI.
They reached 12th, I think, or 16th. I'm not sure. They survived the group stages at the very least.
Countries or regions?
Countries.
Countries? I don't think we're in top 10 if we're speaking countries.
Yeah,
Like,
actually.
I don't really know the statistics.
Philippines has $2.7 million in terms of earnings, and we are at number 17, just behind Pakistan. And that Pakistan is, just Smil and his brother Yawar.
Yawar.
So,
the Hassan siblings.
just the Hassan bros beating the entire country of Philippines in terms of earnings. And some also interesting countries here. Bulgaria and Lebanon's also above us. Jordan as well. Jordan, I think, is Miracle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Bulgaria would be mind control, I think.
Yeah. Lebanon, I'm not so sure who's from Lebanon. But anyway, yeah, there's some interesting statistics. $180 million throughout 10 years of TI. And considering that only 25% of the Battle Pass earnings go to the TI prize pool, just imagine how rich Valve is right now.
Yeah, man. Where's
I mean,
Half-Life 3?
they also. They can't count to 3. Like, we've seen Team Fortress 2, no follow up. We've seen Dota 2, no follow up.
Dota
At
2,
some point,
Alex.
we're probably just gonna see like Team Fortress 2 Alex, Left 4 Dead 2 Alex.
Thanks, Raven.
Dota 2 Alex. Wow, that's going to be... No, I don't think that's gonna work. But anyway.
on another note, what do you guys think Marcy's gonna be? Like, they did a TI reveal, the new hero coming up, the one from the Dragon's Blood, Mirana's assistant. She's mute. She's also incredibly strong, and I don't think she's entirely human.
I feel like she's gonna be a carry for sure. She doesn't.
Yeah, she looks like a core.
Anime, she doesn't seem like she'd be she'd be support.
I'm actually surprised that they went with Marcy because I was expecting them to include the Frimwin, the elf girl, because she's the one who exhibited actual like hero abilities. Like Marcy exhibits extreme amounts of strength, but that's about it so far. Whereas Frimwin she has shadow stepping, she has the ability to generate illusions or like clones and teleportation through shadows. That kind of already looks like it could be a hero kit, right? So I was really expecting her. I was actually expecting her when we were gonna get Dawnbreaker, but then we got Dawnbreaker.
Actually, Marcy, I think it's just Valve giving the fans what they want to see. Because ever since Marcy debuted in Dragon's
anime.
Blood, I've already seen a lot of people on Twitter clamoring for Marcy to be added to the game.
A lot of people were expecting her to be a courier, though.
A courier? Excuse me.
Like she was like Miranda's squire. She
The
literally carried her stuff
disrespect.
around for her.
The disrespect, Marcy as a courier. Well, you can also do that if she's just a useless support. You can just make her when she
Wow.
dies,
Wow,
make her
useless
carry
support. Don't
yourself.
let any of the support players hear that.
Hello, everyone has a courier now.
So also with Marcy incoming, I'm willing to bet it's only a matter of time before they maybe next battle pass, whenever that'll be, maybe like a winter battle pass. We're gonna see the Mirana persona with her.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
it's
yeah,
only a matter
yeah.
of time until we get that, and I'm really
Invoker
excited
persona,
I'm really excited for
Invoker
that
persona,
because
but it's his daughter.
my Mirana sets aren't that good in Dota, so I'm really looking forward to that persona if ever. Invoker persona. Well, actually,
But it's his
I
daughter.
think
Another one.
Selemani should also appear as a Dota 2 hero in the future. That's just a guess though. And in terms of other Dota Dragon's Blood news, have you guys heard that Season 2 was already greenlit? And there's actually already a trailer for it. And it showcased... Oh, guess which hero got showcased in this trailer?
New one.
Yeah, it's not the... Well, it's from the roster, but they're appearing for the first time in Dragon's Blood.
Somebody adjacent to Luna, someone adjacent to Mirana.
She's very adjacent to Luna.
Who would that be?
Very.
Okay?
Is that-
Give your guesses. Give your guesses.
Adjacent to Luna and Mirana.
somebody related to the moon? Who else is related to the moon?
Drow? Okay, Carl's guess is Drow. Who's your guess, Del?
Ah,
I think mine is more.
I'm being put on the spot here. I can't think right now. I'm just gonna go with the.
Warcraft 3.
I'm just gonna go for the counterpart and say Windrunner.
Okay,
Windranger.
Windranger. Okay. Well, actually, it's very adjacent to Luna because the new character that we'll see in Dragon's Blood is Lina, the Slayer.
How is it?
Oh.
Yeah,
The spelling?
It's adjacent
Well, the
to Luna
spelling.
and Lina.
Because if you told me adjacent to Lena, I'd be thinking of her sister, Crystal Main.
Yeah.
Well,
What?
I was thinking it's adjacent in terms of when you sort the characters in alphabetical order.
Literally next to each
Yeah,
other.
They'd be next to each other.
I never sort in alphabetical. I have my own custom hero layout for picks.
I
Just
see.
like a giant band section on the right side.
Okay,
think Lina would be
Lina the
cool.
Slayer is going to be in the Dragon's Blood. But the lore here that they're going to be exploring is why she has a skill called Dragon Slave, which is actually the breath of the dragon that she can control through her magic. So apparently it's an actual breath of a dragon. It's not just her own magic. And it's going to tie up with the story of Davian and the other characters in Dragon's Blood so far. And
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that, but we're getting a little off track here. We should go back to talking about TI.
yeah.
Let's talk about. I mean, yeah, it's definitely something worth talking about, and I'm pretty excited for it. I did quite enjoy the first season of Dragon's Blood, but
Yeah, I'm surprised I liked it as much as I did.
let's talk about the grand finals. Let's talk about those 5 games,
Okay. Here we go.
like that series that started out as a 2-0, almost looked like it could have been a reverse sweep, and then have Spirit win out right at the end there.
So full disclosure, I slept through games 1 and 2 and just woke up for game 3. So I'm not going to contribute anything for the first half of this discussion. So go ahead, guys.
I really liked Team Spirit the whole series. I mean, even when they lost, I feel like the whole series is really like a good showcase of these two teams. Like the first 2 games were very Spirit sided, and then the last 2 games were very LGD sided. The 5th game, I feel like, was the most even game of all 5.
Yeah,
Because-
it
because
definitely
it
was
was
the only one
really-
that wasn't like super lopsided immediately.
Yeah, it was like on the edge of a knife for a while until Team Spirit got that. Like they read the smoke gank correctly, and then they were able to do a really good team fight near the triangle. Then they took the Tiny out. They took the Lycan out, and then they were able to start sieging with the Terrorblade. So I really like the whole series, especially because it shows off like the both of the teams' style of Dota. Like Team Spirit is like really well executed team fights, perfect CC, really good initiations, and they even showed us a Naga game. So I have a soft spot for Naga games because some of my favorite players are good Naga players.
The Naga game was game 1, right, against the
Yeah.
Io Ursa on LGD.
Yep.
And from the draft alone, we were talking about it, right, when we were watching
Yeah.
it. We were doing a group watch. We were talking about it, and I thought that as long as Ame managed to snowball there, it looked like it would have been over for Spirit in that game. But I just have to say their warding game in the first 2 games was insane. Their map control,
Yeah.
they knew exactly what they needed to see when they needed to see it. And we saw Poshka like going all the way around the world, like
Yeah.
coming from bot lane, going to mid lane, spending some time in the triangle. He spent some time in the enemy jungles, and this is like in the first 10 minutes of the game, and he was just
Yeah,
all
man.
over the place, putting wards where he needed to be, being exactly where he needed to be. And I think it was largely due to that they were able to, get Yatoro to avoid the fights that he didn't want to participate in, and also get the pickoffs that they wanted to get.
And actually, their very superior warding and vision game is what made PSG LGD crumble towards the end, because I saw Shinkyu's translated posts after TI where he talked about what made them crumble in Game 5, and he admitted that throughout the entirety of Game 5, he felt like he's being watched, that they had vision to wherever he's going. He was afraid of breaking the smoke of the enemy, and that just shows how much Team Spirit's warding game got into the head of PSG LGD. This is a top tier team that has reached 3rd and 2nd in TI.
Yeah, I feel like the vision game was like super crucial this whole series, because you can see it in LGD's game 3, right? They pick Tinker, they pick Spectre and Bloodseeker, all of these vision heroes to help them finally catch Team Spirit's heroes. And Team Spirit had the Magnus that game, so that was like Collapse's signature hero. So that was when they beat that, I actually felt like, oh no, the boys are gonna crumble from here. It's
Yeah,
like
not gonna
that
lie.
was so decisive. Holy shit.
After games 3 and 4, like I took a nap. I took a 10-minute nap because I thought if I wake up, like I feel like with the way the momentum was going, I just thought, oh, LGD is gonna take this one, and like I took a bit of a nap to reset myself because I was pretty stressed out at everything that happened. Watching the team that I was rooting for at that time. I was already rooting for Spirit in that last series. Go 2-0, and then from that 2-0 go 2-2. But mad props to LGD because of their amazing gameplay. Like you said, they had so much vision game with the Bloodseeker, with the Tinker, and they were able to use that to such good effect. Like with Ame being able to pick up his Aghanim Scepter on the Spectre really early, and every time they just got vision, he could just shadow step into any of the supports and they just be gone. And because of that thirst, also, like it made it really, really hard for Toronto Tokyo to play his Invoker with any kind of risk. Because the moment he tried anything risky, he would be so low that his Ghost Walk would just not be able to bail him out anymore. And also, like a lot of people kept mentioning in chat when we were doing the group watch, that really Nothing to Say is just an absolute beast on Tinker, the best Tinker play in the world supposedly. I don't know enough about Tinker to really I know what he does, but I don't know enough about him to know what separates a really good Tinker from a Tinker that can just stomp me at my Archon level. So I take their word for it. People who are better than me at the game, they say that he's probably the best Tinker currently playing Dota, and we got to see Nothing to Say absolutely stomp it there. And also mad props to Xingqiu on the Rubik for being able to foil almost every single one of Collapse's attempts to do what he does best with the Horn Toss and the Skewer. Like there was also at one point where Xingqiu on the Rubik managed to take the RP. I think it was in the T2 mid lane, and he manages to RP 3 there, and then they just set up for an absolute wipe on the side of Spirit. Like LGD was showing off like their amazing prowess at executes, and when they have their head in the gameplay and the heroes that they're familiar with, like it's pretty insane what they can do. It was so clean. And the same was true for Game 4. Like I was kind of worried about that when Game 4 was the one where the LGD got their hands on the Magnus this time. Like they denied the pick from Collapse by picking it themselves.
It was, I really like this whole series. Really was one for the ages, I think. What a storyline. How about you, Newt? About the games that you watched?
The games that you weren't asleep for.
I actually had to wake up when Game 3 was starting because I have, I work as a news journalist. I have to prepare that article. So I was already writing, Team Spirit takes 3-0 against PSG LGD to take home the Aegis. Something like that. And then PSG went on to win the next 2 games. I was so annoyed because even though I wanted PSG LGD to win, I already had everything written down, and then they lost the next 2 games. But I was watching those games intently already, and it was actually really amazing the side of PSG LGD. Their mental fortitude, according to Shinkyu as well from his posts after TI, that Shao 8 was very pivotal for them to keep their heads leveled on their shoulders, because they were really off the mood already after game 2, and it was Shao 8 who brought them back in, who said, guys, you just have to get things together, things like that. And they were able to win the next 3 games, and it just so happened that, you know the pressure was just too high. Playing in that situation, even though how good you are, still puts you into so much pressure that, yeah, they also did well in game 5. To be honest, they were almost controlling the game until, around the 20-25 minute mark in the mid game. That's when they started losing team spirit. I don't know how team spirit did that, rally back from that almost reverse sweep, and they countered the reverse sweep with the reverse polarity, so to speak, because of how good collapse is. But I really think it fell down on game 5 because of the draft. In games 3 and 4, they were aware that they were losing because of the vision game, and they picked heroes that can counter team spirit, even though, to help them with their vision, as Del mentioned. In game 4, we saw how effective those drafts were, with PSG LGD going 23-2 against team spirit, and it was really effective for a while. But then in game 5, in the pivotal moment, that's when they chose to go back to their drafts from game 1 and game 2, or in the earlier series, to play the heroes that they are most comfortable with. And it just so happens that their comfort picks just aren't that good enough against the comfort picks of Team Spirit. They forgot to pick heroes that can counter the vision game of Team Spirit, and that spelled their downfall. They still were able to hold up a really good game in Team 5, in Game 5 rather, but Team Spirit's draft was just the superior draft in Game 5. And
I don't think it only came down to the draft though. Like you have to give credit where credit's due. Just how amazingly Team Spirit played during those last pivotal moments. Like, you know how much space in the last one of the last fights when they had already broken both T4 towers, but then the backdoor protection had come up, so they had to fall back towards the mid lane right outside of LGD's
yeah,
base. And
that took a lot of discipline not to force the win. I remember that's how PSG LGD lost against OG way back, when they were forcing the ancient push, and then the well-timed, what do you call this, the well-timed buybacks of OG made them stay alive. That's where the Jerick savior of OG came from, and then the Echo Slam that won them the game. And yeah, I do agree that Team Spirit did better against PSG LGD during that game, but PSG LGD's draft definitely didn't help. I was scratching my head. I did agree that the Skywrath Mage would be a good counter against the Magnus, but it would have required a lot of vision. It would have required them to know where the Magnus is coming from. So I think Rubik would have been a better counter against
He was banned.
Rubik was
the
banned out
Magnus.
that game.
Yes, but yeah, Rubik was banned. But all I'm saying is there are a lot of other heroes that can counter Magnus in this game, and I was really scratching my head with that Enchantress pick. I guess they were really going for the early game push so that they could finish the game even before Terrorblade and Magnus could gather enough resources to become unstoppable, but just didn't go their way.
Yeah, it
Yatoro
certainly
became
looked that way, right?
yeah, Yatoro really became unstoppable. He had a Skadi in 20 minutes. That's like a really fast farm. And yeah, they were outdrafted and outplayed in game 5.
It did look like they were setting up to go for that kind of play, right? With the Lycan, the Enchantress, the Tiny, and the Conka having a lot of wave clear and tower push between them. I guess they
Yeah.
wanted to close that game out fast before the Terrorblade could come online, but Toronto Tokyo did pretty good at holding the line there for them. He did his job as a position 2 really really well, along with the supports, and that gave Yator the space that he needed to be able to catch up with his items and take the fights that really mattered. And when they made it to the final, like that final second to the last fight before they made it to the triangle / Roche pit area, like I was watching Miposhka. Miposhka was on the Bane, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Miposhka on the Bane.
No,
with,
sorry, it's
Toronto
Mira.
Tokyo.
Mira on the Bane.
Mira on the Bane, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, so Mira on the Bane with the Toronto Tokyo in the backline, just wreaking havoc. People could not make it to the Terrorblade, and they couldn't kill the Ember Spirit either. And at some point, Toronto Tokyo basically had no mana, but he was still somehow being able to make so much space for the Terrorblade to just free hit everybody, take out all the important targets before the fight made its way to the Roche pit. And I guess, at that point, like, LGD was already starting to crumble, and it was a really questionable thing that Ahmed did to try to solo the Roche, despite knowing the fact that the heroes were still alive in the triangle, right?
Hey, remember
But
they
I
put
guess it was like a
ward-
last-ditch effort at that
Hey,
point,
remember
right?
they didn't have wards there, so they put Enchantress on the cliff, so that should be the ward. And Ami was trying to kill Roshan on his own, and even after Enchantress died, he still tried to kill Roshan. But Team Spirit just felt like, oh, maybe they're doing Roshan, and felt like checking Roche pit, and that's what ended PSG LGD. 3 of their players were dead at that time when Team
They had
Spirit.
burned the buybacks too, so
Yeah, they have already burned their buybacks as the aforementioned fight in the Ancient that pushed Team Spirit back. And, props to PSG LGD for having the courage towards the end to do or attempt a ballsy play like that, but just didn't work out for them. We could have been talking about how smart Amis' move was to kill Roshan at
Yeah.
that point in the game had it worked.
yeah, if it worked out.
Yeah. It just so happened that Team Spirit was smarter than him at that game.
Yeah, I think I also want to commend Spirit's patience, because they knew that they were dealing with the wolf bite Tiny, right? And if you saw towards the end, the last 2 clashes, whenever Tiny would get bit, they would just back off. Like Spirit had the patience to just back off so that Tiny could not get anything done with that wolf bite, and they would go in when it was almost over if they found a pick where he was far away enough from them that it wouldn't be a problem. And like, I don't know, like, to me, yeah, it looked like something incredible, because you're at, you must be a ball of nerds by now. This is your 5th game. This is the last game of the grand finals of a decade of Dota, TI10. And they managed to hold on to this patience to not just go into a fight, to not just take the fight, because they know that the tiny lichen, the wolf bitten, like the Christmas tree holding Tiny is there. Yeah,
Yeah, if you would listen to the panel at that time, it's already a cliche at this point that they're going to talk about how it's going to be experience is going to be a determiner in the game, how Team Spirit is a young team and they might crumble if they lose some games, things like that. But for a very young team, Team Spirit really showed a lot of maturity, a lot of discipline in their games against PSG LGD, and all throughout TI they showed maturity and discipline in their gameplay. They might not be the most, they might not be as perfect in their execution as PSG LGD, but they definitely knew when to back off, when they have to pick their fights, and they knew the importance of playing around wards and things like that. They really showcased their IQ in the game, and I really want to see more of their plays in the future, which makes me sad when Miposhka said he might consider retiring. But yeah, at least they gave us this game, right? They gave us this series, they gave us this TI.
What a way to cap off a decade of Dota, right?
Yeah.
A really exciting best of 5. So poetic. Man, this really is the best Dota timeline. Alright. So, does anyone else have anything to add for TI? I'm just like extremely happy. So,
I don't have anything more to add, but I want to add that if you want to win an AVerMedia Elena mousepad, simply like and follow us here on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and share this episode with the hashtags #OffCDElena, #AVerMedia, #LivestreamerKit, #BO311, and #LiveGamerMini. Don't worry, all of those hashtags will be down there in the description, so you just have to copy paste that, and make sure that when you share this post, it's on public so that we'll see it when we search for our winners. Well guys, it has been a nice run for TI. It has been a wonderful weekend for us Dota fans, and the past 2 weeks has been really good. I really enjoyed this year's TI. and I'm looking forward to the next DPC season. From what I've heard from murmurs around Reddit and the internet, we're going to have the continuation of DPC 2020 to 2020, rather 2021 to 2022 around December this year, although there are no set dates yet. And 2 months until the next DPC season. I don't know how to feel about it. Is it too close or too far?
I feel like it's just enough time to let everybody reset from
Yeah, it's
what happened at
usually
TI.
2 months. It's just a weird this time because the 2 months also lands during the Christmas break. Usually it's TI is in August and then nothing happens during September and October. And we have something in November and then there's a short Christmas break.
Yeah,
I
usually.
can feel it right now. Valve gonna hype up the new DPC season with their Winter Battle Pass. Probably
Yeah.
featuring
yeah.
that Void Arcana, the Faceless Void Arcana, because he won second at the Arcana vote.
Gaben's gonna take away all our money again. So all of those battle pass was we've had an episode on that. Go watch or listen to it if you are so inclined. But yeah, actually, for next year's DPC, I'm curious as to how Valve will move forward from this. There have been a lot of complaints for this year's DPC structure. Definitely, they will introduce a lot of changes, especially since there's been changes in the timeline. I'm wondering actually if they're going to stick with October TI next year, or they're going to try to get it back to August. So that's one of the things that we'll be looking forward to.
Yeah, I mean, if they have it in August, like that's a little less time to collect donations for us to have the largest prize pool that beats this year's prize pool.
I see. To be honest, I miss the old system where we had like 4 big majors and then TI, or like 3 big majors, because having too many majors kind of muddles them down a bit. Doesn't feel as prestigious as before. So
That and the DPC format having like a minimum number of players per region. I mean, the number of teams per region making it in, kind of muddles up the system in the way that, like, the way that we saw Thunder Predator just get kicked out of the group stages going 0-12. Like, that was pretty yikes.
yeah.
There's a lot of different explanations for that. China is very strong because of the structure that they have, as we mentioned earlier, and we can't fault SA for not having that kind of system. And I do believe that giving more opportunities to them would be helpful for them in the long run. So I do hope
Although
that, I do hope that those changes will benefit them in the long run and we'll see them stronger next year. It's just so sad that it had to be this year, because there's a lot of teams that, Team Nigma, you have TNC, you have who else who did qualify this year because of the limited slots for other regions. But I do believe it's for the better for the entire international scene of Dota 2.
Yeah, well, maybe the implementation could be done a lot better, because I feel like if they want to, help foster budding teams in different regions, they could do that with grassroots tournaments rather than bring them immediately to main stage. Because you can imagine how it feels both for the team itself and for the org that was backing them to see them kicked out of group stages like that. Even if they did, in some ways, get their name out there and maybe earned a pretty profitable sum overall.
Yeah. To be honest, I feel like Valve should start trying to spread the TI top heavy prize pool. Yeah. Tier 2 and Tier 3 teams have been struggling for a while now, so
But we know how Valve is with their esports. look at their biggest esports child that they don't really pay any attention to, CS:GO.
yeah, CS:GO is completely run by third-party POs.
It's like entirely funded by like private orgs. Valve is just like, we'll give you guys occasional updates, but the esports scene is on you.
Valve's really allergic when it comes to, grassroots, and well, that's just how things are. And I just hope that they spend more time with the grassroots moving forward, because that's what the scene really needs at this point. But that's going to be another topic for another day. Right now, we're just very happy that TI10 happened, and very happy with not exactly for the results, because I still wish PSG LGD won there, but I'm really happy with the quality of Dota and the quality of production. Let's not forget about that we had,
and the quality of the memes that came out of
and
this.
the quality of the memes.
They were
This year's social media game of those social media pages of these teams have been in a different level compared to different years from before, and it's really fun. Just make sure that it's harmless fun. No one really gets offended or no one really gets out of line. Sometimes just the fans who really rile up each other, not really the orgs who have some beef against each other.
Okay, wait. Before we wrap this whole thing up, I just want to ask what your guys' opinion is on Toronto Tokyo saying easy game to OG.
Oh,
I think it's just fair game. The question mark of emo, the easy game of Toronto Tokyo. Even Seb himself tweeted that he didn't really mind that.
Like as a fan of OG, like I say go for it. Like OG knows what they're doing when it comes to the mental game. They know what they're doing with those sprays and those chat wheel lines, and I'd say it is fair game. It's in the game. The all chat service is in the game. He didn't say anything that was technically offensive. Like,
and you can
easy
actually
game is
mute
something
the
you're allowed to
opponent.
say, right?
And you
Yeah,
can
you
actually
can.
mute the opponent. So it's your problem if you're not muting them in a way. It's not victim blaming. I'm just saying that if you know
Like, the
yourself
tools are
that you
there,
get,
right?
yeah, if you know for yourself that you get tilted easily. Sometimes I even mute my teammates even when I'm playing with this stack because I get tilted by what they say to me. And yeah, it's fair game for me. The easy
Yeah,
game
I
is
don't,
fair
I don't
game.
feel like it was very toxic. Like, I feel like it was a little less sportsmanlike than we would have expected from professional esports athletes, but I also feel like it's fair game, and the mental game is such a big part of Dota anyway. And
Okay.
while we're against toxicity, an easy game's an easy game, I guess.
I feel like easy game is like quite mild in terms of
Yeah,
toxicity.
definitely.
I also find it kind of funny that it happened to OG.
To OG
I'm-
of all people.
It's retribution.
Yes, we're complete. Like of all the teams, okay, maybe not all of the teams, but OG is definitely one of the most trash talky teams out there. So
Yeah,
It's like definitely a prime target for something
Yeah,
like that.
but it's
especially
good
if
to
you're
know.
sure you're winning.
It's good to know that they can take what they dish out. I
Yeah.
saw Seb tweet about calming down the fans not to attack Toronto Tokyo because they didn't really mind. It's for them. It's when you're competitive and you're at that stage, you'd understand how as Seb said, he understands how much happiness or how much hype it must have brought Team Spirit beating OG, and he understands how it could have been Toronto Tokyo's way to express that hype, and he didn't take any offense to that. And as fans, for me, I think it's fun to see actually. I don't really mind seeing those trash talk every now and then, as long as they don't get personal or cross the line. But yeah, I think as long as the people involved aren't taking things personally, it's harmless sportsman. Well, that's how sports are. That's how competition is in many cases.
all right, so wow, this episode turned out quite longer than I expected it to. So
I feel like all of us had a lot to say. We had a lot of feelings about this TI in general.
yeah, it was a great TI, great 10 years of Dota. So yeah, thanks for listening, you guys. This has been Off Cooldown. I'm Cal.
This is Newt,
And I'm Del.
and we'll see you guys again next episode. Stay frosty.
Bye bye.